Hello, good morning. It's about 9 AM on Boxing Day morning. Hope everybody had a nice Christmas. I'm just out to do a little bit of exploring around my hometown of Bath. You may have seen from the thumbnail, Roman Bath. I'm going to show you the alternative Roman Bath, the ones that most tourists don't get to see. I got the idea years ago from that Only Fools and Horses episode, Trotters Ethnic Tours, and I just thought, wouldn't it be a great idea to do a current ethnic tour of Bath, Roman Bath? So that's what this is all about. I'm out on my giant SLR Tough Road 2 bike, my new touring bike stroke winter bike, and I'm heading up to Devonshire Tunnel. This is the course of the old Somerset and Dorset Railway as it climbs steeply out of Bath, just a couple of streets away from where I live. And one of the tunnels, the shorter of the two tunnels, is actually closed at the moment, but we're going to go up to the northern portal, and that would be the first stop on Curran's ethnic Roman tour of Bath. I've been wanting to make this film for 18 months, 2 years possibly, and this is my third attempt at filming it. The first go, I just wasn't pleased with it, to be honest, and I binned it, thought just give it another go. And the second time it was okay with the footage, and then I had all those issues editing it on my Windows not responding 10 computer. Hello, morning. And so today I'm hoping third time lucky. I got plenty of notes with me today, because there's lots of stuff I want to share with you, which I hope you'll find interesting, and maybe just enjoy a little bit of tongue-in-cheek tourism around the Georgian city of Bath, also a World Heritage City, but you won't find any official tours going to the places we're going to today. And this is coming up to Devonshire Tunnel, the first of the cuttings through two hills that the Somerset and Dorset took to get out of Bath. You can see there's a lot of construction work going on. There's been flooding problems in the portal of this tunnel for a couple of years. It was closed much of last winter, and this winter they've closed it for remedial drainage work. They found an old Victorian drain which had just failed and collapsed, and hey ho, we can't get to our first point of interest. Oh, I'll have to show it to you from a distance. You'll see that the works to fix the problem started on November the 4th, a few weeks ago, and it's due to be closed possibly until the end of January. But that's the first point of interest over there. There's 3 two-dimensional statuettes there. I'll zoom in and show you. Can you see left to right there's 3 people who it is decided would represent the history and culture of Bath quite well. On the left hand side is Amy Williams. She was a student at Bath University who went on to win a bobsleighing gold medal at the Winter Olympics. The middle person is Harry Patch. Can you see the poppy on there? I think that was me that put one on there. He was the last surviving Tommy of the First World War, local lad. And there's some fantastic interviews with him in his 60s on the internet. You'll find it quite easily, and I've watched them several times. And he's buried at Monkton Combe School grave. Right opposite his grave, in this lovely peaceful valley, is another grave of a soldier, a paratrooper who won the Victoria Cross in the Second World War. But the third one there on the right is a Roman centurion. So that's a nod to our heritage and our history. Roman name for Bath was Aquasulis. Apologies for the teasing, this is the closest I can get. I'll see if I can get a close-up photograph of that. We're now going to do a 180-degree direction change, head back down that way, and we're heading to a council estate built in the 50s and 60s in the TWerton area of Bath. Just before we leave the course of the old Somerset and Dorset Railway and head into all the council estates, there's one of these insect hotels here. It's a pollinating device basically, Many churchyards have them, and I've come to love them actually. And a couple of years ago, my wife bought me a mini one for Christmas. It looked like a bird box, except it is a smaller version of that with thin chicken wire instead of that. And we put it on the wall in the spring, and it lasted about 2 hours. It was attacked by seagulls and absolutely wrecked. So they must have seen it as a possible food source and gone for it. But one day I'm going to build myself a more substantial one and put one in my patio. Anyway, we're going to head through the council estates over towards TWerton Park. That's the home ground of Bath City Football Club. There's a few points of interest there just before we get to our next Roman point of interest. Okay, this is the residential area of TWerton and its main street. A lot of the lads I went to school with came from around here. Created TWerton, closed. Just to the left here, we're going to take this left here and go up around the back of Bath City Football Ground. I'll show you something there of a point of interest. There's the entrance. Just up from the high street, the back entrance to Bath City Football Ground, TWerton Park. And in May 1970, there was a pop festival held here. Among the acts on that day were names such as Soft Machine and Wishbone Ash, but the headline act was Fleetwood Mac. And I read somewhere in 1969 Fleetwood Mac was so big they sold more records than the Beatles that year. Just hang on to that thought until we get down to our third Roman point of interest, because there's something linked to that. So from here we're going to head right up into the council estates and weave our way through there. That's our next Roman point of interest, back a few streets up there. So you can see it's all council properties around here, built in the 50s and 60s, and some there later. Me and my wife were both raised in council houses, so that's why we look good to Blackpool. It feels like it grounds us actually. Never forget your roots. One thing I learnt from being brought up in a council house, just a personal perspective, I discovered being brought up in a council house, people had very little expectation of you. You weren't expected to achieve much. And when I got in my 20s, I suddenly realised that's a gift. It allows you to fail. And nobody really cares if you fail, because there's no big expectations. It allowed me to take chances. And yeah, I had plenty of failures, but eventually I'll find out what works for me. There's a great quote by Ray Dalio, who encourages similar type of thinking. It's okay to scratch the car, but it's not okay to total it. In other words, be careful with the risks you take, but certainly don't be scared of taking them. Here we are, point of interest number 2, bottom of Poolmead Road, that pub there, that council estate pub. So you can see right in the heart of TWerton is the community pub, and it's called the Centurion. Look at that beauty up on the wall, a brass Roman centurion. That is cracking. I would say the design of that pub is a little bit brutal. Kind of symbolises the rebuilding after the Second World War, where they tried to modernise everything. I mean, thank goodness for heritage foundations that stopped a lot of that cultural vandalism. So I don't particularly like that design, but guess what? It's now got grade 2 listed status. That's amazing, isn't it? And apparently that big window there has fantastic views over the valley there. Can't say I've ever been in there, but I'm pretty sure my brother used to be a sticker up there. We earned our pocket money from sticking up Skittles in Skittle alleys in the 70s when we were teenagers. I'm pretty sure he was a sticker up there. I used to be a sticker up at the Bell in Walcott Street. Beautiful, isn't it? Now we're going to head back down to the river, ride into the centre of Bath, and there's something else I want to share with you. I'm now cycling along the riverbank to River Avon from TWerton into the centre of Bath. So this sandwiched in between the two Bristol roads. The lower Bristol Road is over there, the upper Bristol Road is there, and then the two were merged just on the outskirts of Bath. That used to be the old Bath Coke and Gas Works over there. I worked for the gas board briefly in the 1980s. That was the site of the old Stotherton Pit Crane Works. That was a major employer in Bath. It employed my grandfather. He was a foreman down there. I remember he took me in one bank holiday, it must have been, there was skeleton staff in there, and they were kind of the factories were built in shed type constructions, almost like steel greenhouses with a shallow sloping roof, and he took me up in the cranes that ran just underneath the apex up and down, and I just remember being fascinated by that as a kid. I miss him so much. Whenever I come by here I think about him. You'll see Stotherton Pit cranes all over the world. So you can see it's a popular way for walkers and cyclists to get into town. We're just going to go along here about another half a mile, then we'll turn off left, cut through the back streets of Bath, and that's where I'll start talking to you about the third point of Roman interest. Okay, coming into the centre of Bath, we're going to leave the river path here, start weaving through the centre of Bath. This is Norfolk Crescent Green. I remember coming down to a pop festival in the 1980s held on that green, and that's Norfolk Crescent, one of Bath's lesser known crescents. Look at the pillars right in the middle. Although they're Georgian, they're based on Roman concepts. I'll explain more about that later. I did a video, one of my early YouTube videos, where I explored Bath's 7.5 crescents. And just along here we come along to the Herschel House. He was a professional musician in the 1700s. He was employed at the Octagon, I think, as a musician, but his hobby was astronomy, and in his back garden along here he discovered the planet Uranus. Here we are, 19 New King Street. Here lived William Herschel, 1781. I used to live about 10 doors down there. Actually had a top flat just after I left home, so I've got fond memories of coming down here. I'd quite often come down here on a Saturday afternoon and go in there. I think it's something like about 30 pence or something to get in those. I think it's like something like 30 pence to get in there those days. I was fascinated by that place. Haven't been in there since. It probably costs a lot more than that these days. We're going to go along here, turn left up Charles Street, then right along the back of the theatre row, and there's something there I want to show you. Just on the junction of Charles Street, we've got this board here which gives you quite a good overview of Bath. So you can see it's built around this meander, isn't it? So if you think when the Romans came here, they've already got three sides natural protection. They only needed a fourth really, didn't they? So easy to defend. There were 4 Roman gates for access entry. There's one of them at Eastgate Street. That would probably been the Fossway coming in there. There's Westgate Street, and it's not on here, but along there is Northgate Street. I'll show you when we get there. I always wondered why there's not an Eastgate Street, because when I first left school I started working for Foster Menswear. It's a clothes shop. They sent me and a couple of others from the shop up on a course to Gloucester. Yeah, we got all our train tickets paid for, and I remember when we were leaving the station walking up to the conference centre, I saw Eastgate Street and I thought, why is there not an Eastgate Street in Bath? So I'll show you where Eastgate Street is, and the gate is still there. Just over there to the left is the world famous Theatre Royal, but this is part of the old medieval wall of the city of Bath. Just a small little section still remaining. It's not the Roman wall as I understand it. The Roman wall would have been underneath, but it's pretty much the course of the Roman wall. And again, bear that in mind shortly, because Roman Bath used to be quite a bit lower than modern day Bath. Modern day Bath is built on top of the old Roman Bath. We'll see a few examples of that coming up. Just along the end of the street is Northgate Street, so you can see what the wall was going up to one of the gates out of Bath. At the very far end of Upper Borough Walls, we intersect with Northgate Street. So one of the gates would have been around here somewhere, heading out towards London direction. right up from Bath Abbey. Been an abbey there for 1,000 years. There was an original one before that. As I just said, it would have been at lower level. Right, we're going to head round to the world famous Pulteney Weir. I'll show you something which many tourists probably don't know about. I came across it just out of intrigue actually when I was a postman around here. This is called Bridge Street, and that there, ladies and gentlemen, is Pulteney Bridge at street level. It's one of only 4 bridges in the world to have shops the entire length of it on both sides. Most of the postcard views and guidebook views will be from down at the riverside. We'll pop down there shortly and have a look at that. But what I want to show you is just round to the right. This is the famous view of Pulteney Bridge overlooking the weir. What we're looking at is down that smelly alley in between some steakhouses and what used to be the Empire Hotel. It's now residential. About 15-20 feet below here, just opposite those bins. I doubt if many tourists come up here. One of the fire exits of the Empire Hotel. Down there, ladies and gentlemen, you normally see loads of beer barrels down there and bins. That's the old Eastgate out of Bath. That's actually a part of the old medieval gate, but that's probably where the Roman gate would have been. You can see it's at much lower level, can't you? It's about 15-20 feet below. So I'm just picturing my mind's eye, you know, even in medieval times, horses and carts, maybe troops coming in and out of here, big steel gates there, heading out. And guess what? It would have led right across Pulteney Weir. We'll go down there, we'll have a look from Riverview. There's a sign over there, let's see what it says. It's the inverted version of that map we were looking at earlier on. Can you see on the right hand side the red circle? That's telling you where we are, Eastgate. See the defined course of the road, and if I zoom in you may just see the water of the weir behind that. Can you see it crashing down? Many people have lost their lives in that weir, including one of my school friends not long after leaving school, and it nearly happened to me as well in my misspent youth. I owe a friend who's not with us anymore a huge debt of gratitude. He saved my life that night. Anyway, that's not for this video. Okay, let's hop down to the other side of the weir and look at that gate from the opposite bank of the river. Riding across the famous Pulteney Bridge, ladies and gentlemen. Just before we get to Pulteney Street, I'm going to turn off left and head underneath the bridge in a big S-bend. Here we are, down here. And then there's a 180-degree bend coming up. Can I do it? The great thing about this bike, I wouldn't have attempted that on drop down the bars and narrow tyres. So this is the backside, excuse the expression, of Pulteney Bridge. It's a bit different to the front side, isn't it? We come out right by the weir. Here we are. Go and have a look at that world famous view. I never get sick of seeing that. Lived here nearly all my life and I never get tired of seeing that. Here's the classic view of Pulteney Bridge then. We've just ridden across that, came in underneath the roadway. Most people come down the stairs. And that's where we were, that gap in between those two buildings, Bath Markets and that steakhouse, and then there's the Empire Hotel. That was Boat Store Lane. The Empire Hotel is like a lot of old Imperial hotels. The frontage is designed suggesting that anybody's welcome, that you've got a council house, a mansion and a castle. It's suggesting anybody's welcome there. During the war that was taken over by the Admiralty, the modern day MOD, and it's now residential with a few restaurants and bars underneath it. And then right over there, in between two of those pillars, that's the old Eastgate. Again, let's see if we can zoom in. Can you see it? Right there. That's where the old Eastgate would have been. So how did they get across here? Ferry or bridge? The weir wouldn't have been there then. As I understand it, there was a big Roman road junction intersection down near Sydney Gardens, which is down that way. So that road probably would have come across the bridge here. Look at the name of that Italian restaurant, Ponte Vecchio. That means old bridge. That's great, isn't it? That probably is right where the old bridge would have been. That's such a clever name. And it's also the name of one of the 4 other bridges in the world. Ponte Bridge being one of them, Ponte Vecchio being the other. I think that's in Italy somewhere. I'll have to look that one up. I'll put that on the screen where that is now, but it's in Italy, that one. That Ponte Vecchio in Italy, Ponte Bridge, are 2 of only 4 bridges in the world which have shops both sides the entire span. Now that's the back of Bath Rugby Ground. Let's go along there and I'll tell you the second part of that Fleetwood Mac story. In June of 1969, Fleetwood Mac headlined a pop festival there, and as I understand it, in the year of 1969, Fleetwood Mac was so big they outsold the Beatles in record sales. So they came to Bath twice within 11 months, headlined both the festivals, one at TWerton Park and this one on the Wreck. And just as there were some familiar names at TWerton Park, there were a few familiar names here on the Wreck, including John Mayall, 10 years after, and some new band at the time called Led Zeppelin. We'll head over to Bath Abbey now and we'll have a look at the site of the old Roman temple that was there 1,000 years before that was. There's a nod to it there as well. Just before we head up from river level, Roman Bath level, upon the modern day Bath level, this is the pavilion. Had our COVID vaccinations in there a few years back, but it also used to be host to lots of pop concerts in the 70s and the 80s. The first group I ever saw in there were Hawkwind playing Space Ritual. Remember, my ears were very sore after that. I'm told Led Zeppelin also played there as well in 1970 or 71, something like that. We'll head up here. This is the sports centre, and cross over the river and head over towards Bath Abbey. I also went in there to watch BBC Question Time. In fact, I actually asked a question on that programme. There had been a story in the paper that week, and it was something to do with a convict who was asked to write a letter of apology to their victim, and they said something along the lines of, it was your own fault, it really was, you made it so easy for burglars. And it just made the press, really. And so my question was something along the lines of, how would you react if you got a letter of apology from a criminal who had been convicted of burglaring you? At the time I was studying a little bit of law as a mature student, and I was fascinated by restorative justice, and so that just caught my interest, and I asked it. It was that kind of novelty question at the end of Question Time. And the 4 panel members, I remember this, were the guy who founded Wikipedia, Liz Kendall, who was a shadow cabinet politician at the time, the guy who was the chairman of Sainsbury's, Justin somebody, and there was, I'm not going to say the name, there was a Liberal politician on there, and he was the only one who recognised the validity of that question, and he started talking about restorative justice, which is a bit ironic really, because a couple of years later he's in prison for perjury. This is the Abbey Churchyard in Bath, or as us locals call it, the Abbey Boneyard. There's been an abbey there for 1,000 years. This is the second version. The original version was right underneath. I was taken in there actually when I was a postman, and they let me have a look through a grate. There's some grates there, you can sort of see all the remains of the old abbey down there. That was great being a postman because it kind of connected with my interest in history, and every time I mentioned something, you know, sometimes people would tell me things that I was unaware of. I delivered to someone like General Wolfe's house and I thought, oh, he's General Wolfe, so I'll go home and research it. So you can see this is a bit of a tourist hotspot. I love the Jacob's Ladder, all the angels going up either side of the frontal arch. But here is the site of the old Roman temple. Once again, it had been below. You can see the pillars are a nod to it. And it was even designed in that format with some Latin up there. I walked by that so many years and I never clocked it until about 3 or 4 years ago. I hope I've shown you there's so much Roman influence in Bath. Even the Georgian architecture is a nod to Roman architecture. Look at the circus, it's like an inverted Colosseum, isn't it? And the crescents come from the circus, part of the circus. And as I understand it, 2 billion people on the planet, a quarter of the global population, speak a language which is either influenced or derived from Latin, the Roman language. And we use Roman words in everyday life without even realising where they come from. The months of July and August, you know, that's references to Julius Caesar and Augustus Caesar. The Roman word for lead is plumbum. I discovered that when I was cycling the Margaret's 45B, also known as the Lead Road. And I discovered the Roman word for lead is plumbum. And the chemical symbol for it is Pb. And that's where the word plumber and plumbing comes from, because they use lead to make pipes. And also plumb line, where that comes from. All these Roman, Latin influenced words that we use every day. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed a little bit of Curran's ethnic alternative tour of Bath, inspired by that wonderful comedy sketch. Anyway, take this chance to wish you all a very happy new year and wish you all the best for 2025. From Bath, goodbye for now. See you next time.